reminder again that there's a brilliant game on the RDS tonight if you want to get yourselves along. Tickets still available and will be available on the gate. Ireland against England. Legends will see the likes of Gordon Darcy, Big Mal O'Kelly, Shane Byrne, Josh Lucy is going to be there, Mike Tindall as well. They're all playing each other for a number of rugby charities, including the Doddy Weir My Name is Doddy Foundation. So do get along there. Also available at ticketmaster.ie. €15 on general sale and €10 for students. And I'd say that one of those legends that I mentioned joins us on the line now. Mike Tindall, good morning to you.
Good morning, lads. How are we?
Very good. What sort of shape are you in for? We've just been chatting to Alan Quinlan here, who's in studio with us, about what sort of... He's balked at the game tonight, Mike, needless to say, but what sort of shape do you keep yourself in?
Try to do the best, but every year it gets a little bit worse. You know, it's just the way of the world. But yeah, I think to be able to get the teams that we get together each year to play this game and raise the money that we do for the charities charities that change, and obviously with it being Doddy this year, he's a huge character within the game, and I think it's just a way of the guys just rallying around people that they need to support, and it shows that everyone in the game will fight for each other, and even though you'll go to war on the field, off it you've all got each other's back, and I think that's the amazing thing about our sport. Yeah,
it's for a really great cause, and people should get themselves along there this evening. I was having a look when we knew you were coming on at your record against Ireland. Mike, do you know what it is off the top of your head?
It was probably very good at the start, and then then tailed off towards the end. I don't know. I have no idea.
Exactly. You went 3-0 in your first three, including your debut against Ireland at Twickenham, I think.
Yeah.
Against you had one Brian O'Driscoll, who was also making his Six Nations debut at that time, and then it went 3-3 when Ireland hit that purple patch. But you saw it out in the end. You have a 4-3 win-loss ratio in your favour against Ireland.
I do. Yeah, the Croke Park years were very bad to us. We never won that, so they were very bad. But yeah, so probably won all home games and lost one away game, and then lost.
I think that was it.
3 away games. It would have been. Yeah,
I think that was it. So look at it. Probably 4-4 after tonight. You know, we'll set the record straight.
We lost 2 years ago. We lost 2 years ago as well. So yeah, we're owed. It'd be good to start the weekend off well with a win and just put the pressure on the main boys to do a job on the Saturday.
Where are England at, Mike? Coming force again, in your opinion, or they obviously had a dodgy start to 2018, but seemed to come right by the end of the year. Where are England at in an overall sense?
Well, it's a very good question. No one really knows. Eddie changes so much. You don't really. I think even yesterday, I didn't really have a clue who was going to play. There's 10 people that you probably knew what was going to happen, and then if T.O. hadn't got injured, and if Brad Shields had come through, if Cochran Senior had come through, you really wouldn't know what he was going to pick, and I don't think that's a great place to be. Going into this year in terms of the Rugby World Cup, but going into an away game against Ireland. So, look, they put in a performance against New Zealand. I think the Japan game was a bit of a joke, and I think they got that wrong in terms of how many changes they made. I just don't think we were in a good enough position to make those changes. But you go into your hardest game first up. Hopefully, both teams, it's going to be who can hit the ground running first. It's going to be interesting to see the style that he's going to play. I would have liked to have seen Manu at 13 and have two ball players at 10 and 12, but you've sort of gone. It gives us a good matchup in Bundy Aki and Manu, but I think if England go and try and play sort of an attritional, physical, dominant way of playing, I'm not sure that's going to get it done. That's what we've tried to do for the last 3 attempts that we've been in the Aviva, and none of them have worked. I think they need to sort of change things around a little bit, but whether they'll do that, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, just one more on Eddie Jones. He's obviously had lots of interesting stuff to say about us over the last few weeks, actually. It's too late to change now, and it isn't going to change in the lead into the World Cup. But for you, is he the right man to be leading this England team into the Rugby World Cup later this year?
Look, you can't say he's not, because he walks into the job and he wins 22 out of 23. But since then, the message that has been coming out of the camp has shifted a little bit. In my eyes, it went from making sure that we were playing at an intensity and a speed in the games that other teams can live with, whereas now all I seem to hear talk about is how much they how intense the training is. I'm like, well, I don't really care how intense the training is. I want to see that intensity on the field, and I think, we've had patches of that. I think the New Zealand game, obviously, the way they started, they blasted out the blocks, and that's what I want to see every week. I don't think we can't do a change now anyway. So he's in there till that World Cup. But I just want him to get back to playing at that, where the ball's given a wee bit more air. You want to see the Vunipolas linking with the backs like they were doing a year and a half ago, which freed up so much space. I want to see forwards doing little tip passes that instead of just running into brick walls. And if they can get that right, I've got no doubt we've got a great team that can go and get a win tomorrow. But the stars have to align, and they have to play at the top of their game, because what this Ireland team has shown is they know how to win a game, whether they play well or whether they play bad. Their game is very ingrained in them, so they're so comfortable, and there's never any panic. And if you don't get your game right, they'll swallow you up.
Mike, it's Alan Quinlan here. Just Eddie Jones this week has said, and yesterday actually said it, that all the pressure is on Ireland. It's a bit different for us as Irish people having that kind of pressure, given the history between the two countries and what England have achieved and stuff like that before. Do you agree with him? If you were in that England changing room tomorrow, would you be kind of using that as a motivating factor, maybe to free yourself up mentally a little bit and say the pressure's on them? Is he right in saying that?
I think the pressure is on Ireland just because they're going in favourites, and it's not happened I would imagine, for quite a while that Ireland have gone in favourites, and so come favourites, I think. I think the pressure is. I think from an English perspective, there's still a huge amount of pressure on this team. They're not delivering. Everyone got this cloudy vision of where they were a year ago, and that's sort of just been shattered over the last year. So there's massive pressure on them going into a World Cup year that they're not quite where they thought they were. But as I say, I still believe that we have the players to get back to where we were. But for this game, I think Ireland being favourites is bang right. They are arguably the number one team in the world, let alone the official number two. So that comes with the pressure that everyone now wants to come and get you. And but whether it's going to affect the Ireland team, I don't think it is. If it helps the England players to play a better game, then I'm quite happy for him to use that. But I think realistically, there's massive pressure on both sides.
Okay.
Mike, do you think it's possible that Ireland bore the shit out of England tomorrow?
It's interesting tact for Mitch to go down that route. I think it's a compliment. I've been saying it a little bit on our podcast for a long time, in terms of the way that Ireland play is very pragmatic, but you can get frustrated with it, because you see when they play against USA or the second teams a bit low down, that they give the ball so much air, and they run in tries, but then against the better teams, they play percentage, effective, physical rugby and are unbelievably good at it. So even though it frustrates opposition and they might want to call you boring, that is probably a big boost to Ireland, because it just means that they would like to do it and they're not being able to do it. And that's why I think if England go tomorrow, and I thought Joe Smith played quite a good game in terms of saying, we're expecting this brutality. He wants them to come with that physical game, because he knows that that's a game that Ireland can quite easily dominate, because they dominate possession. You've got two of the best kickers in the world to dominate territory, and then you just build the pressure on the opposition. And that's what England have done as I said, the last few times they've gone down there and they've come off second best. So it's England who need to change what they're doing and actually try and do something a little bit different to sort of get to take Ireland out of their comfort zone. If you look at, even though the scoreline didn't quite say it, Scotland last year, who obviously threw the ball around like there's nothing tomorrow, made line breaks all over the place, and basic 2-on-1s stopped them from scoring a few tries. Now that's not to say they would have won, but they had success, and so did Wales. So have England got the balls to sort of go out there and try that and have a look at how that goes, or mix it up and do a bit of both? And it'd be interesting to see whether they have that.
Mike, I'd be interested to get your take on what it would be like for someone like Robbie Henshaw who's an excellent test midfielder, to go into a test level fullback. How easy would that be?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very big call. Obviously, Joe Schmidt doesn't do anything without thinking about it, rethinking about it, thinking about it again, and then triple checking. So he must be ultimately confident. Now, whether it's again another way to make England sort of maybe try and play a bit more territory and try and move him around and check out his positional play, it could be a genius move for making the opposition play how he wants. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be easy to do, because I don't know how much time has he spent at fullback.
A little bit when he he made his first cap for Ireland at fullback, and would have spent a good bit of his underage career, but not at international level, has really no experience at all. And Joe Schmidt carefully dodged the question during the week. One question that we have for you, Mike, is
go on ahead. It's one of the hardest places on the field. I think he's got wingers now. Even though Stockdale's still quite young, he's got wingers who know what they're doing. So I'm sure they'll be chatting away to him left, right, and centre. So it is a difficult place on the field to switch to. But it'll be interesting to see how whether England try and use that maybe early on to see how his positional play is and see how his kicking game is and have a look at that side of it. But it's not going to be easy.
I noted, by the way, your response to the boring question. You were using words like effective and pragmatic, which are a bit more politically correct, I think.
He doesn't use those words on his podcast, do you, Mike?
Well, no, not necessarily. But the thing is, it frustrates me. But then that's exactly what it should do. And I can't ever say. I can say I want Ireland to play a more open style. I want to say that the things they use in attacks, for the runarounds, the crossfield kicks, they're all done with processes that give Johnny Sexton triggers on what he's going to do, and they're massively effective. It might be the same thing all the time, but that's because they don't make mistakes, so that's why they stick to it. So as much as you want to say, just go out and play a bit more, it's like, well, why do I need to? When we play the teams that we know we can dominate, we throw the ball around, we score lots of points. When we know we're in a game, we control the game. And as much as people want to say it's boring, or they want to say would like to see Stockdale with his hands on the ball more often, where Joe Schmidt finds his if you call it like Clive Woodward 1%ers, are in picking minute details and taking advantage of them. You look at that try against New Zealand. I don't know where that New Zealand winger was, why he was not around there, how far across the field he'd gone, why Aaron Smith was then flying across the field. But Joe Schmidt had seen that and has created a move to go back down that inside of that line out, and they've got what they wanted out of it. It's easy to criticise, but at the same time you've got to admire the brilliance at the same time.
We've been having a lot of debate here over the last week or 10 days about how many English players would make the Ireland 15. How many Irish players would make the England 15?
That's probably an easier question on Monday, is it?
Well, I think, it's a difficult one because it's obviously difficult. It's different systems, but if you go through class of players, second rows, we've both got very classy operators. Front row, obviously Best is just, he's come a bit into his own, but then you've got Furlong, who's just been outstanding. I can't wait to see that matchup with Mako. I think that's going to be fantastic. You get CJ Stander against Billy. I think there's close calls, but at the moment you always stick with the winners, don't you? You've got, that's why they're number 2 in the world. But there'll be some close competitions, but I think would get in at the moment. I think he's just on better form than what Ben Youngs is on. Johnny Sexton Farrell, it's who do you love? I think everyone pretty much likes them both. Interesting chat around them in terms of both being hot-headed, but Peter Stringer's been firing up, hasn't he, saying that that they're going to target Farrell because he loses his cool, whereas Johnny keeps his cool. So there's so many interesting little matchups there that it's going to be great to see, and I just hope we get the spectacle we want and we get an England win.
I'm hearing 15 players, Mike, by the way, that was as you went through the team there.
Well, that's the thing. If you look at them, there's genuine. That's what I mean. That England have the players. I mean, Ireland have this golden age of their players, but England have good players on that field, but they don't. I think what they're missing is consistency in selection in terms of comfortable. I know Eddie likes to take people out of their comfort zone, but sometimes you need a little bit of confidence in the environment you're going into. I don't think a lot of those guys have got it, so I don't think you necessarily see confident players always on the field. Whereas with Ireland, they're like a big Chevy. They're just so comfortable in what they do, and they're just quite easy to roll down that road. And if people aren't ready for them, they just dispatch them. They've just got that much experience and that much class.
Safe trip, Mike. Thanks for taking the call. Good luck tonight.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks a lot. Mike Tindall there on the line. He'll be one of the legends that lines out at the RDS tonight. Native great charities as well. So get yourself down there. Tickets on the gate. It's Ireland and Scotland versus England essentially. Ali Hogg is in there as well and a couple of other Scots. So should be a belter. Get yourself along to it. Before we let you go, you're on duty for you're taking a trip of your own for France Wales tonight. What are you expecting?
It's hard to know. France have picked a very strong side. On paper, guys who've performed well, particularly there's a number of Toulouse players. I'm looking forward to seeing Intimac in the centre and Fofana. They're two guys who can excite. They've gone for the Clermont halfbacks, Lopez and Parra. I would have went for Dupont, the Toulouse scrum half. He's incredible. So he's kind of put this excitement in the centre, and then he's put this kind of pragmatic approach in Parra and Lopez at halfbacks. But they're the heaviest pack, I think, in the history of the Six Nations in international rugby, 150 or 60 stone.
Good French food, is that there?
Well, Willems in the second row and Vahamahina, Otonio, the loose head prop, or the tight head prop, they're all up on 130,
8 years since France have won it. They've London and Dublin to come. It's really must win for them, isn't it?
It's must win, and see how fit they are. It's a big pack, and they've had so many issues. They lost to Fiji in Paris in November. Wales then kind of under the radar a little bit. Good November, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, William, as always, Quinny. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the games over the weekend.